Hey Nick, we need a tagline for the podcast.
No.
Real life opinions. Movie reviews told by fans and not critics.
Okay, who's starting tonight?
I don't know. You're...
Well, we don't have Jeff, so he's usually one.
I know, and now we're lost.
Okay, so tonight's podcast is The Fall Guy.
Not to be confused with the 1981 TV series of the same name.
Even though it is a direct ripoff, knockoff, bastardization. What other adjectives could I come up with?
I wouldn't call it knockoff because it's intentionally a remake.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
I would have preferred a knockoff, actually.
yeah. I honestly, what I like about the beginning though is it talks about, you know, the shit that stuntmen go through. And I mean, obviously, again, the credit goes to the series as well. But in general, just that's the one thing I think I overall liked about this movie is giving the nod to where nod deserves, because nobody thanks the stuntman.
That is about the only redeeming quality I can find in this. Even the director, I mean, everybody's allowed a miss. And in my opinion, he is involved with John Wick. He is involved with all these stuntmen movies that are coming out. And I absolutely admire him for leaning into the idea of practical stunt effects over top CG. Mm-hmm. So that's about the redeeming quality of it.
I mean, I don't think it tried to be anything other than what it was. What I laughed at is how much Ryan Gosling looks like Aaron Taylor Johnson.
and I googled it, and they're .04 height difference.
Oh, you can see it there too.
Just slightly,
just enough, but
yeah. And I think Aaron is a little closer, so it's hard.
Yeah.
But like one is 1.8 and the other is 1.84.
So basically 6 feet for both.
Yeah, they're basically the same. Yeah. So, I mean, I'll start with saying rarely do I think a movie fails because of actors. And I
do. I say that a lot.
I think the actors have a certain amount. They were told what to do, and they have no control over editing, and they have until you get into these high-profile cases like Stallone and whatnot, where they get to control the production of it.
Wow, Deadpool.
What's that?
Deadpool.
Well, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Exactly. Ryan Reynolds got the control of that.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, you look at these especially blockbusters and high budget stuff. So I don't think I'm not going to blame Ryan Gosling for my dislike for this, or Emily Blunt.
Emily Blunt is absolutely adorable. You talk about the redeeming quality with the stunt people, and I do. I that is obviously the best part. But Emily Blunt is such a sweetheart. Like,
one of my favorite actresses.
Right? Like, and she doesn't try to be anything better than herself. She's just good.
I think that's partly to blame with Krasinski. And I don't know whether maybe that's why they fell in love with each other, because they are both grounded human beings.
Yeah.
And that's probably it. So, I mean, and on that, as good as anybody is, I feel like there's... Let's get into some of the nit-grit stuff. There is no chemistry between these two people in this movie.
Between Ryan and Emily? No, there's not.
No,
there's not.
Yeah.
No. I honestly have never really been a Ryan Gosling fan. So he didn't stand out one way or the other. I didn't hate him. I didn't like him. But I've never really been on his bandwagon. Obviously, still to this day, his most notable movie, pun intended, is The Notebook. And I still haven't seen that movie. But...
Me neither.
Yeah, but, I mean, you've got Barbie where, Ryan Gosling... Well, Ryan Gosling was okay, I guess. I mean, he was playing a emotionless character, so...
And I would agree with everything you said. I was never on his bandwagon either, and partly because I do not feel a whole lot of range in him. Whether it's the roles he's been given, I didn't see the Notebook. I think he was in Remember the Titans.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I own that movie and I haven't watched it in forever.
You know, and he's fine. There's nothing remarkable about him other than his pecs and his abs.
He's definitely got abs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean he's done a lot of dumb jock action too, and
yeah.
So again, you don't need talent to do dumb jock action. So.
I'm trying to think. What's the most dramatic thing he's done, not counting Notebook or Titans?
That would be my picks.
Like he's been kind of trapped in this, Ken type roles.
Yeah, like he's been an action star without being an action hero.
Yeah.
And by action star, I simply mean he has starred in an action movie.
Yeah.
Like he does, like you mentioned Stallone, you mentioned those guys. Like he is not an action icon, even though he's done action movies.
Yeah. 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 I don't know. I mean, right off the air, I got 5 pages of notes because you guys were saying, "Well, you used to bring notes." Okay, well, you triggered me.
When I did my type reviews, I shouldn't say when, because when I still do. I watch the movie, I make notes, and then I type based off the notes.
Well,
unless I write my thing right after the movie, then it's all memory. So
it just so happens when I watched this, after I was done this, I had an inspiration. I just sat and started writing in cursive, and I just started scribbling down the idea of art and whatever and all this other stuff and movies. My wife and I just watched a movie with what's her name, Anne Hathaway, where she falls in love with a young boy band guy, and it was interesting.
What movie was that?
It was on Prime. It wasn't a bad movie. It's your stereotypical rom-com type thing. I'd watched this earlier, so
I remember. Speaking of Anne Hathaway, I completely off topic as usual. I remember watching the movie Love and Other Drugs, and I was like, "Hey, it's an Anne Hathaway movie. I like Anne Hathaway. Let's watch this movie." Mm. And I had heard that what's it called? She goes topless in it. And I'm like, "Well, here's a perk, okay." And so there's like one scene where she's at the doctor and she's like, "Oh, I have a mark on my breast," and she flashes one boob, and I was like, "Oh, well, that was misleading." And then later on, there's a scene she's sitting in bed beside Jake Gyllenhaal, and she's completely topless. I'm like, "Oh, there it is."
That's the scene.
But yeah, so
going into this, and I know people are going to accuse me of going in with extreme bias, and I'll argue I'll argue that I gave it a fair chance, and I can sit here and say what I hated about it through my bias lens, and what I thought was good about it outside of that. Not completely clean, but it is, I mean, right away, this is not made for me, for our fans. The fans who watched Fall Guy, this has nothing to do with it. This is made for our children or our grandchildren because the character doesn't fit, in my mind, to tie in with Colt Seavers.
I mean, I definitely do not think Lee Majors when I think of Ryan Gosling. So
yeah, and I mean it's oh man, I mean they went and they turned again what you'd call an action TV series into a comedy, which is a first negative. We all know that when they divert from the original, it tends to be a failure. And I'll accept any arguments on that. A-Team, TV show to a movie, they did a respectable variation. They didn't make it too comedic and they didn't make it too serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that one stayed in parallel. That is my exception to movies made or TV shows.
And it's funny with A-Team. I do plan on mentioning that later on. We were talking about our podcast ideas, but I find it funny that in a movie where it's got the comedy, and it's got whatever. Liam Neeson is as straight as an arrow in that movie.
Yeah. Which, oddly enough, apparently he's going to do the remake for Naked Gun.
Yes. I can't remember who the girl is with alongside him, but yeah, I heard that, and I've seen Liam Neeson funny, and he is funny, but I can't see him doing satire funny.
Yeah.
And are they going to satire? Because Naked Gun was based off of the TV show The Police Files, which was in turn a spoof of Dragnet, of all those things. With this new movie, are they spoofing newer cop shows, or are they going to just make it a general comedy without being a spoof?
So are they gonna spoof Law and Order?
Right,
and
something, yeah. So,
which, well, they certainly wouldn't make sense to spoof 50s and
nobody knows who Dragnet or what Dragnet was anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, they had that failed '80s movie with Dan Aykroyd, but
that was right too.
But I love Winston Duke. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. And again, without touching the old stuff, which the modern crowd don't know anything about. Like, this movie here, I guarantee 99.9% of the target audience had no clue this was a remake off a TV show.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just the notes that I was writing down, right to this point, subjectively, I guess, I will say it's just too farcical. They don't have any realism for me. But again, it's a comedy, so it's Google it. It's an action comedy, which will tie into our. This is one that what genre is it?
Yeah.
It's too funny, too comedic, and not enough humor, which those who listen will understand my point there. So I mean, there's no weight involved. Objectively, I think this is all rushed. Now, what are we, 10 minutes into this? We've already leading into this whole relationship. We know nothing about the two.
It's basically the second act in 5 minutes. And that's crazy. There was the intro was so rushed together. Luckily, Joe Blow moviegoer got enough out of it.
Yeah.
But as far as, like you said, development, the intro was very poorly developed.
Yeah. And it's frustrating when they try to create all this weight and consequences and not give you the exposition until halfway through the movie.
What's funny is, at the beginning, you see a spark between Emily and Ryan, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden they jump to the second act, like I said, and all of a sudden you find out, they were in love and he left her. Nowhere did they mention it. Looked like they were just flirting with each other at the beginning, not that they actually had a relationship. So when they come out, it's like, I was in love with her and we had this thing, and then he left and now she's all heartbroken, and it's like, when did that happen?
Yeah. They slightly allude to it, but he's here. She wants you here. I don't want him here, and all this other stuff. I think there's a lot to be said too. That I think a professional stuntman watching this from afar will get a lot of little things. Yeah.
Well, and even in the closing credits, when they get to it, they do the nod to the stuntman there. So
yeah, he's sorry. That is fine. I don't mind that. Like I said, that's about the only redeeming value. Now, I do say that this had so much potential, but again, they missed it completely. I felt like by this point, I'm not sure whether it's supposed to be a farce comedy or whether it's a rom-com, or whether it's just a bad drama. I was literally confused at this point.
This is pretty much the cookie-cutter definition of a blockbuster movie. You shut your brain off and you watch it. Don't try to pick it apart because you'll be here for hours. Just shut up and watch it. And it's
2
enjoyable.
2 hours and 5 minutes to be exact.
I saw that actually because I didn't realize that when I went to the theater to see it. But I saw that on the screen here, and I was like, "Really? This was that long?"
So that then begs me to ask, it's like, well, if you're supposed to shut your brain off, well, what's the value in making a movie anymore? I mean, I understand what a popcorn flick, action and this and that, and I disagree in the sense that they try to create too much an emotional weight within the characters for it to be a quote unquote popcorn flick.
I guess they do try, but I feel because maybe it's just because I didn't take that part seriously either, like you were saying, that I didn't put that as a specific quality of the movie, so I just ignored it as just another part of the movie, not a defining part of the movie. So
I felt like, well, when you cast Emily Blunt, you got a name, and you're going to be watching her, and then they create this. Now, I think if they would have leaned into the actual concepts of the original, then I think they would have had something. But they don't. Do you know what Colt Seavers, the original one, what show was about? You're a bit young, but
I was 2 when that show came out.
It was about him being a part-time bounty hunter while he was a stuntman.
Good then.
So we've lost all of that aspect, and now, I mean, we are solving a mystery. So, okay.
Yeah, but not based on his trade. They just did it because, oh, hey, you look like him. You need to fill in for him.
And the premise to the original was the fact that he used all his skills as a stuntman to mislead people, to build them up, and he would trick them into giving, oh, you in the mask, haha, you thought I died.
Well, that just sounds awesome. Like
it was, especially you got $6 million man.
Yeah.
It's a squinty left eye and all that stuff. So, I mean,
is it really true? Like, what makes a stuntman is just how much pain he can endure?
You know what? I don't know, but
because goddamn,
have you ever seen the movie Hooper with Burt Reynolds?
No.
I highly recommend that. Again, that was a movie based around stuntmen. It had there was actually a video game based on it, but it had Burt Reynolds and Jan Michael Vincent. He was this young up-and-comer stuntman, and Burt Reynolds was there to bring him in, and they had all these crazy stunts and whatnot. It was really good, and back then it was about. I mean, you look at Buster Keaton, okay, so that's a whole new level, right? So Buster, you know who Buster Keaton?
I know the name. I can't.
Remember that movie, the old black and white stuff, the guy hanging on the clock without a wire?
Yeah.
The guy throwing the big log off the train?
Yeah, I know of, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
so.
He's the original crazy, and it's just like we look back in the 50s and 60s and the 70s, suck it up, walk it off, be a man, blah, blah, blah. That's what stuntmen were kind of like all about, right? And I think they've made huge evolutions in safety and whatnot since then, but I think there's a lot about that.
Well, and in this movie, so again, we're not crediting this movie as a well-done movie, but in this movie, it seems that all he needed to be a stuntman was to be able to take a punch, lack of better words, like take a hit, roll with a punch, like everything. Like that whole scene where he barrel rolled there, it didn't show that he knew how to maneuver the car to do it. It just showed that he could take the accident impact. And it didn't really, doesn't give any credit to the skill of the stuntman. It gives credit to what they go through.
Oddly enough, I agree with that. I think they diminish what a good stuntman is like.
Because the stuntman has to actually perform the stunts, not just be on the receiving end of said stunt.
Yeah.
So,
they gotta know how to drive the
coming
car.
from a kid who grew up with WWF/E, right?
Yeah.
That's all that is stuntmen learning how to take a hit and how to land a hit and how to deliver a hit in a choreographed way that nobody gets hurt.
Yeah. That would be the same as like calling stuntmen fake. That would be the same essence, you don't do that to WWE.
No,
WWE
and
is fake.
I always hated that. Like, what's it called? People are like, oh, wrestling is fake. I'm like, so when you watch a guy get shot on TV, you say, oh, that's fake? No, you don't. You just enjoy the entertainment. That is what wrestling is. Yeah. You know it's fake. That's been out of the bag for years now. Yeah. Just enjoy it for what it is.
I agree. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And like Bret Hart said once in an interview when he was asked, back right before they blew the top, People asked him, is wrestling fake? And he's like, have a 300-pound guy land on top of you and tell me if it hurt.
I mean, I've always looked at WWE as like, okay, they are presenting something that would kill people if it was done legitimately.
Right.
But they're giving you a show.
But their skill is to make it look real without doing it, without hurting themselves, without hurting the other person. And injuries happen, and everyone's like, oh, they're not actually... Like, Rhea Ripley right now is out with injury. Everyone's like, oh, she's not actually injured. I'm like, how do you know? Like, she could very well be hurt right now. It doesn't help that she's getting married right away, and she's showing a lot of pictures of her on vacation with her husband, well, soon-to-be husband. So that doesn't help, but I mean, it doesn't take much. Like, as a guy who's not active anymore, if I was to do even 1/20th of that stuff, I would be injured in a heartbeat.
I'd pull a muscle getting off the couch.
I'd pull a muscle just walking to that ring, so...
All right, okay, so we set up the movie, and this is... I mean, I'm disjointed to start with just because they're taking an iconic childhood, whatever, and they're making it irrelevant or whatever. But now we get to this scene, and as Corey mentioned earlier, they were talking about underplaying what a stuntman really is, and now we're going to... Now, out of just her whole brokenheartedness, she's going to make him redo this how many times? Not only that, and this was the first part that I really got cringy. Oh, this is fake. Okay, he's not having fire.
Yeah, getting lit on fire and then getting thrown into a rock.
Without a mask or headgear. And
yeah.
He's just free, whatever. And I guess this is their artistic creative license. But it's annoying. You know,
I get why she did this. I get why the movie did this. It wore thin really fast. Yeah. Like, where she's like, oh, do it again. Okay, do it again. Do it again. After about the 4th or 5th time, I'm like, all right, this is dumb. Let's move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the first 3 times, I get it. That was funny. Ha ha ha. Revenge, woman, ha, strong. But... And that's the thing, is Emily Blunt can make the empowered woman seem not cringy, because I'm not a feminist, but I'm not a feminist, you know, if that makes sense. Like, I respect women, of course, because I'm a respectable guy, but I don't like overly entitled feminists either. Yeah. So, and that's the thing. She could be an overly entitled feminist and still be adorable. So,
see, I support 95% of most feminist ideologies, but I just don't want to jump into a group that has such, you know, like you say, you got the fringe of feminisms that are extremists.
There's an extremist in every group, whether it be left wing, right wing, like everything, like.
And ultimately, that's just why I won't call myself a feminist.
Yeah,
I'm all about empowerment, strengthening women, having women build themselves up to be stronger, giving them more opportunities, all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I respect everyone and everything. I am not a religious person. I respect people who are religious. I'm not gay. I respect people who are gay. I'm not a feminist, but I respect people who are feminists. Like, that's just me. I'm just a respectful guy. Yeah. So.
Yeah, you are. That's why I can't hack on you like I do Jeff. Sorry, Jeff. So anyway, actually, so I did let you guys know I found one of our fans, which I didn't realize. Ash, good friend of mine, she listens every week or all the time.
So she's caught up?
I think she missed last week.
You maniac.
She might be caught up now, but she says, oh yeah, I always listen to him. So shout out to Ash.
Shout out. Awesome. I don't know who you are, but yay.
She's actually our costume designer for Shakespeare. So
that's a talent right there.
Yeah. So. She's a wonderfully weird chick. She likes to wear elf ears on a Tuesday, sometimes on a Thursday. She wears corsets because they're cool, and just so many good things about her. So. Yeah. Anybody else want to come out of the closet and say you listen to us? We'll pump you up too.
I mean, we have comment sections in all of our social medias. We need more people to communicate with us. We don't want to do this just for ourselves. We want to do this for you. Let us hear from you.
Feedback.
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 Feed me, Seymour.
Otherwise, we'll be trapped in doing what Jeff wants to do all the time.
Yeah, just leave it to be mine. Nostalgia bait.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm the one who's all about the nostalgia bait. So.
Oh, I know.
And I have no qualms about that.
I know.
So.
Oh my God. Oh, it's just like I'm on a page of notes here. I have 5 pages of notes. We haven't got to that point yet. What were we talking about?
I don't know. We get off the beaten path so fast.
No, we were talking about what we're going to do tonight. I mean, we can sit here. Okay, we seem to be sitting on the same scene for what feels like, far too long, which you said.
Yeah.
Have we progressed the story at all? No. Have we done anything to promote? Okay, bad movie. But.
Okay, we get it. She's scorned.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Why Australia?
Why not?
Okay, that's good. Oh, here's another pet peeve, and you're going to notice it. In the original Fall Guy, he had this wicked truck. This beautiful 4x4 with roll bars and lights. Oh, shout out to her. I really love her as an actress, too. She's from, what's the soccer TV show on Apple?
The Wrexham one or whatever?
No, the other one. It was huge with Andy Sudeikis.
I got nothing.
Oh, American footballer goes to Europe and.
I don't have a lot of streaming services.
It was absolutely a brilliant 3-season show, and she played the owner of a soccer team.
So, spoiler alert. How did you not figure out she had something to do with it?
Oh God, that's later on. It's just like, yeah.
I think it was right.
We know who the bad guy is
yeah,
right now.
I right after the scene, I leaned over to Lisa and I'm like, so she's the bad guy. She's like, how do you know? I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
Like, the nuances, no, you don't know until as it progresses. But the overall, who's it going to be? Yeah.
What's our choices at this point?
Right.
You
Well, I mean, in all fairness, this is just where we found out he's missing.
Yeah.
So, quick 10-second plot for anybody who actually doesn't know. We've been so busy talking about, we never talked synopsis. But he's Colt Seaver, which is Ryan Gosling, plays the stuntman of the dude that I can't think of his name, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. And Aaron Taylor Johnson goes missing, so they get Ryan Gosling to look for him and fill in for him while they look for him. That's
because they look so much alike.
Yeah, which like I said, it's quite scary how much they do. So
yeah.
Tom Ryder, there we go. I saw a sign.
Yes, I was going to say Thomas Ryder.
Yeah.
And actually, Aaron Taylor Thomas, I like it. I would say he's my most. Not knowing he was in this and then finding out he was in this, I got excited. I really like Aaron Taylor Thomas.
Johnson. Aaron Taylor Johnson. Yeah. He's hit and miss with me. I've definitely liked a lot of his work, but I've also definitely not been. I've never hated it. I've just never been that interested in it. Kick-Ass was fun. What's it called? Quicksilver was okay. Like he was MCU's Quicksilver.
Yeah.
It was forgettable.
He got the right shaft by the writers.
Yeah. I am not looking forward to the Craven movie, even though
I really liked him in Bullet Train. He was amazing.
I never got a chance to watch that.
Oh, I highly recommend. Talk about a fun movie that did not give you unnecessary weight. There's a lot of little things and honor amongst thieves, and only one guy really didn't have. It was a great movie. I highly recommend.
I when it was playing at the theaters and there was ads and everything everywhere, like trailer upon trailer, I'm like, I need to watch this, and then I just didn't. Yeah. So
I was on a tangent.
Oh yeah, about the truck. Yeah,
about the truck. It was iconic. It was a beautiful truck. He had side pockets in the box before modern day had it, And so they just got him a brand new GMC truck with the same coloring. That annoys me. Why did you do that? Just ignore that. You're not even home. Your truck is at home. Oh, that annoyed me. So.
Fair.
Oh, and here we go.
Oh yeah, a lover montage.
Finally, now we get to find out.
Oh hey, they were together. Who knew?
Yes. And they did donuts together. That's the truck. That's the original truck.
Okay.
And when you're a little kid, that's awesome. I dreamt of owning a jacked up 4-wheel drive with roll bars.
I was gonna say all the jacked up 4-wheel drives in the '80s had roll bars. Yeah. It just seemed like the Back to the Future truck, the Toyota that he wanted there, had roll bars.
My brother had that one.
Nice.
Except for it was red and gold. Did Simon's Power Wagon have roll bars? I think it did.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a blast.
Ted Lasso. That's the show I was talking about the
okay, I'm like, why do I know that name? Yeah.
The antagonist is from.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's okay to see a man cry now. Let's lean into that. I just felt like there was a little bit of a... I don't know. It's just like they're leaning into the millennials more.
Stallone wouldn't have cried.
What's that?
Stallone wouldn't have cried.
Nope. Yeah, I agree.
I'm not even... My 80s Mount Rushmore of personal watching movie action heroes were Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and Van Damme. Or not Stallone, sorry. Schwarzenegger, Lundgren, and Van Damme. Stallone was kind of
Lundgren
fourth. I fucking love Dolph Lundgren.
I loved him too, but I didn't think he carried the weight those other three did.
No, not even in the same page.
Okay.
But I loved The Punisher. I loved Masters of the Universe. I loved Rocky IV. I loved Universal Soldier. And so being a huge fan of it, when Universal Soldier came out and it was Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren, I was in kitty heaven. That movie was 91, 93 or something like that, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing!
Would you put Willis on there? Or is he...
Willis was only Die Hard, in my opinion.
Only Die Hard?
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't like The Last Boy Scout or...
They were fun.
Or any of those other ones?
What was the one... Hudson Hawk. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah, but...
That was my favorite one.
Yeah. But no, Willis will only ever be Die Hard for me. But
Striking Distance. That was the other one.
I think I watched that one, but
I really liked that one. Yeah.
But yeah, Schwarzenegger. I mean, again, obviously you know my love for Terminators.
Yeah.
Commando was great. Predator was great. Last Action Hero is one of my favorite, type of comedy movies. So, yeah.
It got beat on so unnecessarily. It was a freaking parody.
He was parodying himself, which is what made it great.
Yeah. See, which relies into the problem here. I would prefer this to be more of a parody or be more dramatic, but I feel like it's sitting in the middle. I feel like it really doesn't know what it's trying to do. Who produced this? Is this a Disney thing?
No, I don't think so. I think... Was this Paramount? I can't remember.
Google. Go ahead.
Let's Google. Yeah, I know... what's it called? So, I don't know. There's just this relationship, like you said, it is not good.
Universal Pictures.
Okay. Well, that doesn't say much, but... yeah, no, this is the point where you're officially feeling the spark between them, but at the same time, it's so flat.
Yeah, I feel like they just... These montages they keep doing, and we get to see 2 or 3 more historical or whatever montages later on in the show. They're just, to me, they're clunky, and their pacing is off.
Well, all they were... And I mean, I know that's generally the point of a flashback, but it was forced exposition, is all it was.
You had to find a way to bring up this information.
It was already 2 hours long. They didn't want it any longer, so... Which arguably it padded the time, but either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was what movie was it? Friday the 13th, the remake, the 2009 one. the thing with the Friday the 13th movies, the originals, Jason didn't come out until the second movie. Jason with a hockey mask didn't come out until the third movie.
Yeah.
And if you watch the 2009 Friday the 13th, part 1, which is the mother, was all done in the opening credits sequence.
Yeah.
And then they essentially start the movie with him getting the hockey mask. So that kind of worked that way, where like even the new Spider-Man, like Tom Holland and all that stuff, they don't allude to Uncle Ben they don't show Uncle Ben dying, they just allude to it.
Ignore it altogether. Sorry.
Well, I wouldn't say ignore, but they definitely don't focus on it. And that's a huge character defining moment.
Yeah.
So there's certain times where you can montage an exposition and do a great job. But this movie, like I said, clunky's a good choice of words. That's what this movie ended up being. So
I would say a good montage would be now, regardless of whether you like the whole movie or not, was the opening sequence to Batman vs Superman. Rather than to have to relive the whole thing about his parents getting killed.
Oh yeah,
that was arguably one of the best montages. We got all the information out of the way. We didn't waste any fill time during the credits.
And you had Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne, so that was pretty amazing.
Oh man, I'm still pissed off of what we could have had. He was supposed to be the
Flashpoint,
in Flashpoint.
Yeah,
and having Maggie as man. Anyway.
Yeah, that was a movie, like I said. I mean, we obviously have differing opinions on that movie, but that was a movie where the cast didn't save the movie, so there was some disconnect somewhere, because the cast was beautiful in that movie.
Well, that's what I mean.
So,
like the initial failure of that one was not the cast's fault.
No.
It boils down to directing, writing, and editing, and that's
the only thing. Well, actually, that's not true. Writing and what's it called? Yeah, pretty much writing was the only thing that failed those movies for me. I actually I didn't, except for Ezra Miller, I didn't hate the acting. I couldn't stand Ezra. He was not my Barry Allen. Anyway, but the casting, Henry Cavill was spot on. But at the same time, I'm not that guy who's hung up on him. Ben Affleck was spot on. The parents were spot on both sides. Just insanely great casting, and just ruined by really, really terrible writing.
And I would argue that the writing could have been saved by better directing.
Maybe.
Maybe. We could all sit here and say that if he had edited and cut certain things differently.
Yeah.
And I know people that are really short are going to harass me on this, but I think all that movie could have been saved with some proper editing and proper slight correction, and then it would have been much better.
And just getting rid of the slow motion.
I think we need to take a break here because people are going to be joining us via the phone here in a little bit. So we're going to take a little break, drain the main vein, lose the lizard. I can't remember what the hell they're all called. So we're going to refresh ourselves.
Okay, so I'm with you guys.
Welcome.
Oh, wow. You got the big squiggly blue lines, so we can hear you.
Oh, am I on the Bluetooth now?
No, you're still on the phone, but we got the speaker right next to you, so...
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
So
we don't actually have Jeff on speaker. He's just that loud. We can hear him from his house.
That's true.
We recording?
Yep.
Or are we testing?
No, we're recording.
Oh, okay.
Hi,
this is great stuff. This is awesome for the podcast. Yeah.
Okay,
terrific.
so what you said you're, about 15, 20 seconds behind us?
No, you should be talking.
I'm pretty much right there. I might be a second or two.
They're talking on the phone in their chairs, respectively.
Yes, in this terrible, brutally bad mirroring thing, which I don't know what they're trying to achieve by this.
They're being what is referred to as meta right now, Mike.
Meta? You need to define meta.
Like a metahuman from the DC universe?
Well, so I know what that means, but kids today use meta as something completely different.
meta is meaning not quite a fourth wall break, but like verging on the line of going through there. They're like acknowledging what's going on and why they're doing it. But they're like they're letting the audience know they're in on the joke, right? And that's why they're doing this.
I don't think this is that definition at all. I think this is really bad exposition and really bad plot progression attempt, and they're trying to be artistic and creative.
No, you're reading it all wrong. This is a love letter to these kind of movies, and they're purposely doing it this way. This was a conscious choice to do it this way because they know it's a trope. And they well established throughout this movie. Like
This is a trope? What trope is this from?
Oh, with the from two different points of view thing. The unicorn thing is obviously not a trope, but like two different people.
That's not how fucking drugs work. Sorry, I'm sorry. I had to see that. That's not how drugs work. Somebody else doesn't point out a unicorn and then oh fuck, I hated this whole part. I understand their attempt with that, but it failed miserably. It was not, I don't know. How are you watching this, by the way?
Huh?
How are you watching this?
Perfectly legally.
Are you perfectly legally
in a
watching
perfectly
it like
legal
us?
manner.
What's that?
In a perfectly legal manner.
Okay, so you didn't pay the $25 to rent it. Okay,
I will not disclose the amount of money I'm spending to watch this movie.
Okay.
I mean, in all fairness, when I went to the theater, I used a movie ticket, so I didn't pay either.
Yeah. Yes,
I was quite looking
that.
forward to watching this in the theater, and when I finally had the opportunity, it was no longer in our local theater. It's quite disappointed.
The insanity is that these movies, like, I really wanted to watch Abigail in the theater.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh crap, I missed it. Next week, out on Google. I'm like, what the fuck? And this movie, gone in theaters. Next week, out on Google. I'm like, holy crap. Back in the day, it was like 6 months.
Why aren't Gen Z going to the theaters? Well, I don't know, because you're releasing it in the theaters, and then you're releasing it on Google 2 weeks later. Like,
yeah.
I was going to point... Sorry, finish your thought.
That'd be like, back in the day if Jurassic Park went on to VHS 2 weeks after it was released from the theater, right? Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Used to be you'd have to wait a year release until it was done till you could get it.
I'd like to bring up sponsor placement. It is so gratuitously gross in this one.
Well, that's not surprising in this type of movie.
And everything is blatantly a choice in this movie. They made a very clear choice to do these things. It's a very, very bad choice, but yes, I know it's intentional.
It's intentional, the gratuitous.
No, I'm talking about
placement?
the split screen and all that stuff. I know it's very intentional. He's trying to be very creative, and he's not.
They're trying to be meta.
That's not how I define meta, but that's fine. I don't know. I define it differently than you. So.
Completely off topic here, but what's really funny is the child in me, when they first said they were going to Sydney, the first thing I said out loud was 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney.
Where's that?
Nobody?
What is that?
No.
Oh. Finding Nemo.
Oh, I was much too old to be that into that movie when it came out.
They repeat that ads like 50 times.
my kids were a little too young for Finding Nemo. We were a Cars family. That was the Pixar movie of choice in our household.
No, that's where we were too. Logan was at that age for Cars. And Monsieur Incredible! That's in the reader's book. I used to read them every night in bed. Or one of the books I used to read them. And it would be the brief breakdown of Mr. Incredibles. And there was the one French guy with the bombe de terre.
Yeah.
And that was my best accent in when I... Monsieur Incredible! Yeah.
I can do a pretty mean Shaggy, so when I read Scooby-Doo to my kids, it
Ah,
was
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
fun, so...
Let's hear the Shaggy. We gotta hear it now.
But it's loud.
Yes.
I'd be like, Zoink, Scoob!
And Corey just hit puberty for the 14th time.
I had to crush my testicles to make that sound.
Yeah.
We heard the sound of the book coming down on top of him.
Yeah. So, Jeff, we talked about how one of the biggest things we talked about is how the relationship was not very defined. Like, it jumped from first act to second act within 10 minutes, and the relationship was not very defined. So they did these after the fact cutscenes and flashbacks. But all in all, someone as grounded, as we use the word too, as Emily Blunt, who can portray anything she needs to portray. We found there was zero spark between the two leads. What are your thoughts?
I definitely wouldn't say zero sparks, but I could see where that is coming from. Like, there are some moments with them where there is some chemistry, but it's not huge. But I'm going to stand fast on my opinion with this movie. A lot of the bad decisions were purposely made to be bad decisions, which I kind of love. Like, they address the love story angle being in movies about how it's pushed by studios and producers and stuff like that. And then they have a love story that clearly looks like it's underdeveloped and pushed by the producers of the makers of the movie. And I love how they purposely dance it like that, right?
Boy, they saw you coming. I think it was. I think, to be fair, you're right in that was their attempt, but I don't think they hit either side of it. To me, they're not committing to anything particular. They're trying to dance into everything. We want to dance into parody. We want to dance into this. And to top it all off, none of this has anything to do with the original TV show, which they're riding the name recognition on.
Well, he is a stuntman who solves a murder mystery.
That's not what the TV show was about.
No, he solved mysteries, did he not?
And why and how did he solve mysteries?
Well, because he was a stunt guy.
No. He was a bounty hunter on the side.
I thought he was a private detective on the side.
No, he's a bounty hunter. He would recapture the escaped bounties and whatnot. Now, every episode was I was telling Corey about this before, and anybody who's my age that grew up with it recognizes that, he would use his stuntman tricks and capabilities in order to set up so that they could recapture or arrest whatever bad guy of the week happened. And that's the nature of the weekly adventures and whatever. So the only thing, and this falls right into Roadhouse. Roadhouse had nothing to do with the original other than the name of the character, and he worked at a bar. Same as this. The only difference is Roadhouse was a better movie.
You could interpret it in a way that this is... A lot of these movies, when they redo a TV show, it's the origin story. So you could say they could retroactively make this how he becomes a bounty hunter on the side, because he does spend this whole movie trying to capture a murderer.
Well, I don't know so much he's trying to capture the murderer as he's trying to find Tom.
He's trying to find his actor.
Oh yeah, but at the end of the movie, he tries to put him away for justice, correct?
Yeah, we don't know that until the end, so it's the whole movie. He's either trying to get by doing his job, which is fulfill the needs of the movie, while trying to find the Thomas Ryan or Ryan Tom, whatever the hell the other guy's name is.
Have you guys talked about how heavy this movie movies?
It's a pretty movie-ish movie.
That's what they rely on it. Otherwise, there's oh my god, it is so.
No, we were talking about how this is supposed to be a love letter to stuntmen, and in a lot of ways it is. But at the same token, it doesn't give the credit to what the stuntmen actually have to do to perform the stunts. It more talks about how the stuntmen survive the bumps, and that's about it.
Yeah.
I think this is also a love letter to dumb action movies, which is why they make the choices they make. That was the way I saw it when I was watching this the first time. Was like, you watch some of those really dumb 80 action movies, there's just some stuff that like totally makes no sense.
Like what?
And
I love dumb 80s.
No, like
movies.
what dumb 80s movies are you referring to? There's a lot of action movies in the 80s.
there's a lot of action movies in the 80s that do that.
Well, yeah, which ones are you referring to so we have a frame of reference?
Anything
I'm trying
Schwarzenegger? Anything Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull out a Schwarzenegger specifically that does it.
Well, if you gotta think that hard, then it can't be a trope or anything.
Well, there's a lot of them that do that kind of stuff.
So, and again,
I'm trying to think of the
reference
ridiculous
in this movie.
of Commando comes to mind.
Oh yeah, you're gonna pick his worst movie? Why don't you pick Raw Deal? My God, let's go to the bottom of the barrel. Stop, or my mom will shoot. Let's go to the other side. Okay.
There was a time where there was a bread and butter for action heroes.
Oh, absolutely.
Where the plot didn't matter that much, right? The
They
stuff
weren't-
that survived the test of time are the well done ones. But there was a plethora that came out in that time in the 90s that, you know, there was no rhyme or reason to the plot. They were just like, we need explosions and guns.
That was the era which they wanted to see the next Stallone movie or the next Schwarzenegger movie. They didn't care about plot and anything else and stuff like that. They just needed to go through the motions.
Mm-hmm.
And you're asking, who's the audience for this? Gen Z? Clearly, their audience demographic is confused because they're certainly not going for my generation. Because I guarantee you, those of us who watched The Fall Guy are pissed off and heartbroken. So they're aiming on for what? Our kids and Gen Z, in which this is, you know, they're making the stuntmen cry and soft and be emotionally open and whatever, I guess. I don't know. Because these tropes are great for my generation, but not for Gen Z. So, I asked.
I think it's trying to update some of the tropes, yet still purposely falling into them. Like the scene we're in right now where, you know, he's supposed to be at the karaoke bar going to see his girl, and instead he's got this wild action. Like there's a hard contrast from what comes before this to just like this all of a sudden, oh, you've got this cell phone and these bad guys are after you. Like it comes out of nowhere, right? Which is like a major theme of older action movies. Like this day and age, the audience has become a little bit more nuanced and doesn't accept it as much as we used to. But
I'm not getting your point. I think he could have used a cell phone to call her, which is stereotypical rom-com mistake.
Well, he's going to get this phone. Yeah, whether
I know what he's doing.
rom-com, it's trying to be too many genres, but I feel like that's an intentional choice.
Okay, so what I'm getting is you're saying it's trying to be bad, and that they're trying to intentionally have us like something on purposely bad. Because that's not good.
Yeah, but that's the very definition of movies got a movie. Is it's intentionally bad, but you accept it.
I disagree.
I
think a movie's got a movie.
Bad.
What?
It intentionally does things that movies do badly, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying movies intentionally being bad. I'm saying it's intentionally doing things that movies do bad.
Are you saying it's a farce or a parody? Because it doesn't go far enough for that.
it's definitely not a full parody. That's where the definition when we say love letter to it comes in, right?
Yeah, because I mean, when I think parody or satire or anything of that, I need a reference point. I need what are they satiring? What are they parodying? Right? We were talking about Naked Gun earlier, and Naked Gun, albeit again based on a TV show, was a love letter or a parody or a spoof or whatever you will for stuff like Dragnet or Chips or things like that. Whereas this one, I could see it being a tongue-in-cheek love letter, like you said, but to what? It's not. It's not based on the original. Yeah. So
I think that Fall Guy's a forgotten enough property that they weren't too concerned about the Fall Guy diehards going, because it wasn't Lee Major's most famous role, and it wasn't the most famous mystery of the Murder Action of the Week show.
Have you Googled that? Have you Googled that? Have you researched the popularity of the Fall Guy?
I know enough about the 80s to know what was more popular.
Oh, did you? I mean, we're talking about the number 2 or 3 show is still a goddamn popular show. And it had one of the 2 Heathers. Every boy's bedroom on the planet had one of the 2 Heathers as a poster in their room.
What was the second one?
Heather Thomas.
Oh, okay.
And Heather Locklear.
Oh, I knew Locklear, yeah.
I hate this scene.
This scene's ridiculous.
There's a lot of this. And the dog's a shitty actor. I'm serious. And I know that's farcical, but I'm serious. Their dog did not have the charisma and character that any other dog in film I've ever seen.
At the same token, this scene totally reminds me of the beginning of Deadpool.
Yeah, it does too. Has the same tone for the lighting and the cinematography of it.
I do think that when you look at the behind the scenes, that whole scene was almost done with stunt drivers, even though it does look a little CGI-ish.
Well, that's the thing, too, and that I blame on the cinematography. They didn't give us enough of the view to find the reality of it, and that's I'm with Corey on that one. Again, they want to highlight the stuntmen, yet they undermine it at the same time.
I was impressed to find out it actually was a real shot, though. Were you guys not as well?
It doesn't matter if it doesn't feel that way in the moment. I mean, we can all be told after the fact, but it's in the moment where we live. That's where.
Well, they definitely fucked around with the cinematography. The fact, again, it's like the Deadpool thing. Yes, that's actually happening, but they make it look very fake because it's slow motion or it's weird camera angles or it's weird filters or it's weird. But yeah, again, wait for the closing credits, which again no movie should have to do, and you see, oh my god, this was actually legit stuff, and I'm like, that's kind of cool. But it's one of those things where it's the pay dirt at the end helps you gain a little bit more respect for the movie, but a good movie shouldn't have to make you wait till the end to have that respect.
100%. I mean, you look at now, I pointed out to Corey that this director, every director is allowed to miss. This is the same director that's involved with John Wick series and Bullet Train and a lot of other movies. And those movies were completely different in quality. They never questioned. I believe that's the guy from John Wick too, the black guy.
That's Winston Duke. It's from Black
From
Panther too.
John, I think he's in John Wick 4. Which makes total sense.
Yeah, I don't remember him in John Wick 4.
Who's the black guy in John Wick 4 with the dog?
Lawrence Fishburne?
Oh, for fuck's sakes. That is so fucking racist. It's Samuel L. Jackson, you asshole. Oh no, there's neither one. It's you. Have you seen John Wick 4?
Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne's in it.
Have you seen John Wick 4? Who's the black guy with the dog? If you don't know what that is, you haven't seen it.
I don't know if I've seen 4. I've seen 1 through 3 for sure, but I don't know if I've seen 4.
This is the one where John Wick. It's got some incredibly new visuals, but there's a black guy that's hired to get John Wick, and he's got a dog.
How creative!
It's absolutely creative. It's you gotta have a dog in John Wick.
I just think Winston Duke. I think of Black Panther. So
okay.
I did not think that was the same guy. I thought that guy was a slender build.
No, he was a chunky, thick dude.
Yeah, Winston Duke is a beast.
Yeah, Winston Dukes would be taller, but yeah. Anyway.
Is it Momoa or Mamoa?
Foreshadowing.
Oh, that's right. Actually, I did forget about that.
So.
It's Shamir Anderson.
Boy, who's the racist one now?
Well, I
He's
said
a
it
black
was.
guy with the dog, so it's got to be him.
Well, there was only one black guy with a dog in the movie, so that made it easy to pinpoint. So, call me a profiler, sure, but it was not for racial derogatoriness.
I'm sorry that I forgot that Lawrence Fishburne didn't have a dog in that show.
Well, it's not that you should be sorry. You shouldn't be sorry.
I
You
actually
should be
thought he did have a dog in
sorry for
number
claiming that he had a dog.
4. Did Lawrence Fishburne not have a dog in number 4?
Nope,
What did he have for a pet in number 4?
he didn't have any
Pigeons.
pets. He was a pigeon guy.
Was it pigeons?
Yeah, he might have had the pigeon stuff.
That was in 3, though, but he had all the pigeons on the rooftop there.
Well,
Was it
yeah.
2?
Yeah.
I thought he had like a couple dogs at number 4. I could be. Those movies all kind of run together after
They
the
really
first
do.
one.
They really, really do.
Yeah. See, that's
Okay.
popcorn flick. That is a good example of a popcorn flick. They bring you into their world, but they don't deviate from it. They don't send you down some philosophic love blah 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 in the middle of a guy that just wants to friggin' kill
Well,
people.
I mean, the whole premise of John Wick is they kill his wife,
Yeah.
and he goes on a revenge. So technically, there's a love factor.
Yes, but
So-
they don't weigh on it. They don't sit and dwell on it, and they don't
They
tease
do
you
at the
with it.
beginning.
Well, a little bit. It's more about the dog.
It is more about the
Because she died of cancer, so...
Because it kind of, the beginning kind of reminds me of P.S. I Love You in a lot of ways, except for instead of letters, it's a dog.
I don't know if I've seen
And
that.
John Wick reminds you of P.S. I
The
Love
intro, the opening part.
Oh,
Like
Like
I
how
guess.
he loses his significant other and they leave him something to remember them by. It's a stretch, just work with me.
Yeah. So when we have John Wick week, we're gonna like squeeze in P.S. I Love You.
oh, aren't we
Because
going
of
to
the
do a
strong
whole
connection.
month for John Wick? I think we should.
I think he was
Okay.
being sarcastic, I could be wrong.
I wanted a week, but if Mike wants a month, let's do it. Let's do it.
And then we gotta talk about the Continental.
Oh,
yeah, well,
well,
that's
we got to
the
wait for the
spin-off,
ballerina
right?
to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the guy from Bullet Train, who I thought it might have been, was Brian Tyree Henry. He
Why
was
was
in
that?
Was
Bullet
that-
Train.
Why do I know that?
Was that another black guy?
Yeah, he,
No, it was a white guy, but he played a black guy in another movie. That's why we're confused.
Robert Downey Jr., what?
Man, that guy should get an Oscar.
Yeah. I'm just a dude disguised as a dude.
He was in Spider-Man, No Way Home. Or no, Spider-Man Across the Universe, Spider-Man Into the Universe, whatever
Who did
the
he
hell
play?
it is. Spider-Verse. He was in that one. Both of those.
But
He
in
was who?
Spider-Verse movies, who did he play?
I don't know.
Was he the uncle?
What's that?
Was he the uncle?
Probably.
Hmm.
Could have been the dad, I guess.
So, you know what actually bugs me about this movie? Why does he have a Miami Vice stuntman jersey? He's way too old, way too young to be in
Which is funny
Miami
because he
Vice.
said that he was in the Miami Vice stunt team.
But he's way too young.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm gonna get caught up on my notes. I've been doing the notes per page here. Just
Oh,
I can't
God,
remember.
who let him write?
I can't remember why I said this, but there was cliche frustrated lover, or whatever that is. That seemed to be like flustered, whatever. Dog's a bad actor. Cheap use of original music. It's just like, it's so bad. Like the soundtrack, it's like they're using good music, but just in the wrong places and missed whatever. It's nostalgic bait. Superdog. Ugh.
Like, where does the dog even...
Oh my god, we're about to hear it too. They fucking used the $6 Million Man sound. It's like, that's so fucking stupid. What reference is that? Oh, okay.
Hey, remember when Lee Majors was in the show?
Yeah.
Which he was in the end at the closing credits there.
I know, which was so bad. I mean,
What else was he doing with his life? Let's be honest.
he's 85.
Yeah.
You're gonna cast him as a cop? Fuck off.
Just let him have his cameo, Mike. Just let him have it.
Oh, that sounds like the people that are in love with the whole what's her name, Carrie Fisher in Star Wars. They fucking mistreated her character like a piece of shit, and they're all, oh, but we got to see no, they treated her character like garbage, and you just have this.
Dude, they killed Han Solo, okay?
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah.
Okay, so again, speaking of my infantile mind, every single time in a movie where I see somebody shoot and miss someone, like, and I'm not talking Star Wars, we were just talking about that. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about, like, in this type of movie where it's like bad guys with a gun, and they miss a guy, especially point blank. I think of Dumb and Dumber. Harry, you're alive! And you're a horrible shot! Every goddamn movie. I am not even kidding.
Oh my god!
How
I
did
just
he not
caught
realize
this.
it was blanks?
That gun had blanks.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, I knew it, but it's just like I must have been arguing with myself when I seen that scene, because it was like no blood, no nothing. The guy just assumed, oh, he's dead. How did he know he's gonna shoot 3 times? How did he know? It's just so.
What was
ridiculous.
I watching yesterday? I was watching an 80s movie yesterday, and guy gets shot, and you can totally see the squibs, and the guy's dead there. There's 0 rips on his shirt whatsoever. There's just red spots. And I'm like, oh, the 80s.
That's what I'm talking about. They did not care about continuity in the 80s.
Well, that wasn't the continuity we wanted corrected. I mean, that's blood squib packs. That's pretty minor to get hung up on that. Oh my god. I got written down. That's not how fucking gasoline works, assholes. Oh my god.
Once again, they're not trying to be realistic here.
I think that's bullshit. I think they are. I think they're trying to parody a little here, parody a little there. We want to be realistic here. We want to be realistic there. And what's the point in doing something with practical stunts if you're gonna do it half-ass and do it incorrectly? I don't think this is what they had in mind.
I think Vegas wanted the love lever to the stunts that they didn't.
They failed miserably.
They purposely made these decisions for, like, we know that it's not going to be a perfect script-wise or perfect tonally, and that's what they wanted. Like, all the choices feel too intentional to not be that way.
I think they feel so unintentional, and I think it's just like, ooh, I'm going to intentionally try this crack. Ah. Yes. Yeah, I don't.
This
I think
filmmaker's too smart for that.
They're not that smart. I agree with Corey. They did not set up the intent for that. To try and let it be nuanced and let people get it is a failure. They have not set themselves up for a parody or a love letter to anything specific, and that's another level of failure.
I mean, let's just sum it up. The movie was messy. If I could say one word, the movie was messy.
The pacing, it was clunky. The shots were weird. I mean, even if you do believe it's a parody or whatever, it's still clunky and weird. The whole thing. The exposition is like this. Okay, we could go on about this is a trope. The bad guy monologuing.
Yeah.
But then we find out he's not actually the bad guy.
Well, he did kill a person.
Sorry, spoiler.
And he did try to kill, the main character.
Yeah.
So, he kind of, even though he's not the bad guy, he's still the bad guy. They're both equally bad.
He's
Just
an antagonist.
Just because I am a bad guy does not mean I am a bad guy.
He's
Wreck-It
probably
Ralph.
did more bad stuff than the producer did.
What's that?
He did worse stuff than the producer did. Spoiler.
Accidentally.
It was a purpose choice to try to kill, oh God, why can't...
Ryan
they
Gosling?
Yeah, but they say his character's name
Colt
half a million
Seaver,
times.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colt.
He doesn't kill him, he gets his buddies to kill him.
No, they literally just showed him, hitting the switch to try to kill Colt.
Oh, you're talking about when he was, on the harness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or did he just change the level of... Was he trying to kill him or was he trying to hurt him?
He legitimately said he tried to kill him.
Did he say that verbally?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the dialogue? What did he say?
Oh my God, I don't know the exact...
Well, if you don't know how...
Just listen to it, Mike, 2 seconds ago.
I know he messed with the mechanism. I didn't hear dialogue saying, I tried to kill you. I thought he was just trying to hurt him so that he could do his own stunts.
Wrestling's overrated. It's fine.
Well, I know, you kind of lose focus at something this bad, so...
I see. I got it and I understood it, and I get that things aren't meant for everyone, and not everyone catches the kind of nuance that other people do and everything like that. And that's fine. I can see how a person would think that these are unintentional choices, but they seem so purposeful after watching it. I loved it because every now and again I don't mind a dumb movie that doesn't make a lot of sense.
I love a dumb movie that doesn't make sense if it's intentional. This doesn't feel that way. I don't think they were trying to make a profound action piece either. But I mean, it all ties into, if you're going to connect it to the Fall Guy, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do that, it's a series of bad choices leading up to a product that is misunderstood and misinterpreted, and a just overall bad product. And to agree with you, in a sense, that they're leaving it up to a very vague group of people that will get their inside jokes.
Corey, did you remember the Fall Guy as a franchise?
No.
You're too young.
I was 2 when it came out.
Do you remember Dukes of Hazzard as a franchise?
Well enough.
Do you remember $6 million, $6 million Man as a franchise?
No.
Do you remember it existing though, right?
Yes.
It might have been a popular one at the time, but it's definitely not a property that has stood the test of time, right?
I don't know, because $6 Million Man really didn't have legs for the future. It never. They had some very slight attempts at dragging it on, but it never really kept going. None of those. Same with Dukes of Hazzard.
It entered the popular zeitgeist, though. That's still to this day. If you say the opening words to $6 Million Man, a lot of the average public would know what you're talking about.
Do you know? I gotta ask you. Do you know what the term zeitgeist means?
Oh, popular zeitgeist. I don't have a definition in front of me here.
It means disposable and forgettable. That's what zeitgeist means.
Not literally.
The zeitgeist art from the 60s to the 70s was disposable and forgettable, and it disappears as fast as you see it. That's the term that they use it for.
The defining spirit of mood, a particular period of history, and showing ideas and belief of the time.
Of the time. And it disappears of the time. So
that's not the definition I have of it disappearing, just saying of the time.
Okay. So, anyway. I don't... In that definition, then fine. It's zeitgeist, but...
Yeah, stupid dictionary. What does it know?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I learned. Come back me with facts.
Well, I learned that through theater in a play that defined it in a different zeitgeist art. It disappears. It's disposable, and that's where I learned that from.
Well, Geist means ghost, so that's why.
Well,
I said,
but
it's not a
zeitgeist
direct...
is what, derivative of German?
Yes.
So what does zeit mean?
I can't remember.
Scene?
Well, because the ghost is
you're
the
the German, come on.
The ghost is the disappearing part of the equation, because obviously it's not a direct translation.
So interesting enough. So the word actually says disappearing.
Yeah, because the term poltergeist translates to noisy ghost.
Noisy ghost. So they're disappearing. Right in the word.
But again,
the more we know.
That's a very loose definition, though.
Yeah.
Because that zeitgeist became a popular culture word. It didn't become a direct definition.
Anyway, moving on.
I'm just saying the hockey game is like half an hour in right now, so.
I totally have it on in the background here, Corey.
Yeah, I would on my phone,
it's been great.
But my phone's kind of being used, and I actually got a message that I need to answer, but my phone's being used. So.
Oh, is it important? You got a message?
No, it's not important. It's just a message. So.
Ridiculous attempt to cash in on John Wick style films.
So I'm not well versed enough, but I can recognize a couple different styles of action movies within this action movie. Can you guys not see that as well?
I'm not gonna lie. I get what you're saying, Jeff. I agree with about 50% of it. But I know I'm always end up being Switzerland in these things, but I see points.
Take a side, goddammit, Corey. No. Take a side.
No, I am too much of a chicken shit. No, I agree with some of Mike's points, but not all. Surprise, surprise. I agree with some of your points, but not all. So I walked away. So I mean, we're basically running to the end of the movie, so we could probably even hit final thoughts.
Yeah, we're gonna. I'm just gonna.
But what's it called? I feel it definitely danced between both of your guys' thoughts. But that said, that's what made it, and I'll use the word again, a messy movie. It just it tried to be too many things, and because of that, it failed. That is why it failed. It had nothing to do with the acting, had nothing to do with the action, had nothing to do with the makeup, had nothing to do with any of the core elements of a movie, but the layout and the intention, which is the word we were using, was messy, and that's why this movie failed.
And that's where we had agreed. Earlier, before you joined in, I said rarely do I feel an actor is actually the destruction factor of a movie. It's usually in the writing, the directing, but and that sort of thing. But well, of course, it's got ideas from other movies too. I wanted to address that. There's not a movie in the world that doesn't steal something from other movies. That doesn't make or break anything in this film.
I think this one purposely tries to steal from here and steal from there, and like that's the intention part that I've been beaten on, right? Like I think those are choices they're making for homage, if you will, for some of these choices. Like the boat chase thing is like they even acknowledge it is not quite ripped from Miami Vice, but damn near, right?
Oh no, it's also ripped from James Bond. They've done that a million times. I don't think you can place it from one show.
I think, again, being the neutral here, what's it called? I think what they were trying to do, like you said, the intention, Jeff, your version of what the intention is, I think because it was based off an 80s property, they're just spoofing the 80s. And, like, no one particular property, but it's got an 80s feel to it, and that was the point. Again, it completely missed the mark in terms of acknowledging what it comes from, but it does spoof 80s action.
And the problem with that is that 80's been spoofed and built on and reworked so many times. How do you know they're spoofing the 80's now when they're not? We've seen James Bond running through Venice.
That's their way of giving the nod to the original. Is that, oh, it came out in the 80's. Here's some 80's.
There is some stuff from the 90's, or not the 90's, the 2000s I did notice. Like, it wasn't in the John Wick style of fighting, but like it was a very John Wick scene when he goes to the club and he's wearing the super
when he's high and
clothes.
he's like, and the bottle and everything, and
yeah.
I hated that scene. It was so totally off for the rest of the movie.
Well, it's because he was high.
That's not how high works. And he wasn't high at that point, or was he?
No, he was.
Oh, did he get high? Yeah. It just made no sense. Let's totally change the whole cinematography. Let's change the tone. Let's change sparkles. Let's put it's just like, oh God.
And I can understand your complaint about the tonal change. I get why they did it, but I understand why it wouldn't work for everyone, right?
I get why they did everything in here. I just think it's bad choices. You know?
See, I appreciate the artistic choice to do it that way, to be honest.
I appreciate the artistic attempt, but they didn't, like I said, it's muddled, it's confusing, they've made no clear, definitive choices from what they're driving from. Now, whether it be the fact that the 80's are so overdone and muddled with new stuff that you don't know where it's coming from. You know, they start off with a brand new modern song, then they jump, an 80's song, whatever that was to kick it off, then they jump to Taylor Swift, then they jump to whatever.
See, that's why I in the end, like, the part of me that liked this movie was because I felt like I was watching an 80's movie. That was the part of me that, I mean, if I was to say I was watching a modern movie, which, I mean, technically it is, but you know what I mean? I would not like it. But appreciating that it's trying, I think, to essentially be an 80's movie, I can appreciate it. Emily Blunt kicks ass.
She really does.
It didn't feel 80's at all to me. That's my problem. If they would have actually placed it in the 80's and then said he was actually Colt Seavers, and then they reinvented him. But I mean, it feels like Starsky and Hutch with Ben Stiller and Ugh. This is the
remember that list I was talking about?
Yeah, worst movies from TV shows.
That was a terrible. But that was another lesser known franchise, though. I feel I didn't know about Starsky and Hutch until Starsky and Hutch came out, right?
Well, that's because you're like not old enough. Starsky and Hutch was huge. Yeah. Every kid had the Starsky and Hutch car, the Gran Torino with the white stripe and the red car. Oh man.
Even the beginning of the Beavis and Butthead movie spoofed Starsky and Hutch.
I'm sure
with Isaac Hayes singing the theme. Go figure. So.
Yeah, I'm sure I've told you where the term "what a Rockford" comes from.
From Rockford Files, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a Camaro. Who has a? I don't see everybody driving a brown, bland Camaro.
You know, can we just take 1 second to acknowledge how there's not cool cars in TV anymore?
That's because they can't afford to. Or most of the car companies actually aren't allowing it. Like, it took
Transform. Well, we had a Hummer EV in this.
Yeah.
Clearly, clearly the sponsorship made sure that was highlighted
Yeah.
several times.
What's it called?
What is there for iconic TV cars of the last 10 years, though?
The Batmobile.
That's of the last 10 years? The Batmobile in the last 10 years?
That's all I can think of.
I know. Marvel tried to push the Audi.
Oh.
Yeah, but that's not
Already
iconic, though.
No, I agree. It's not iconic.
Like, those cars were naturally got over, to use a wrestling term. Like, the car from Starsky and Hutch, or like, even the truck from The Fall Guy was a pretty damn cool looking truck. Like.
Absolutely, we were talking about that earlier on, and that was one of my pet peeves. They got a 2024 GMC and painted it the same way, and it's just like, stop, just stop.
Don't you wish they did that two-tone coloring more often in vehicles? Though, that was as good as you could possibly make that turd look.
Oh, I don't. What the old Chevy trucks?
No, the new ones. Like, you could... Chevy trucks look terrible now, and that two-tone...
Oh, they look better than they did 4 years ago.
As you could make it.
They look much better than they did 4 years ago.
I had a 2014 Sierra at one point, and it was pretty nice.
There was the 1 year where they got square. Everything it was like everything was a 90-degree on it. It's like, I don't like that.
Oh, yeah, I remember that hideous thing. It was like all grill, and then the lights were up in the hood almost, right?
Not sure, but it's like a 2000. I want to say 18 or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah, I would say now the grills look amazing now. When they started folding around and inside, they're really stylish. I mean, Chevy's always been more of the stylish of the vehicles. So
I don't know if I think it looks stylish now, but
well, I mean,
I don't like the look of new vehicles, right? So
remember in Fantastic Four 2 when they had that Dodge sponsorship and they called it out in the movie?
Sure don't.
Because Chris Evans went and got them sponsors, and so they had their Dodge vehicle, and they had the Dodge logo on their uniform and everything like that.
Yeah.
Jeff?
Yep.
Jeff, what's the score?
What's the score?
Yeah.
2-0 for the Oilers.
Nice.
Yeah, 2-0.
All right.
Yeah.
No.
So
we haven't quite got to the scene yet, though, but what did you guys think of the final fight scene?
I don't remember anything good about it. But I'm not saying it was bad, but I don't remember anything good about it. Are you talking about where he sneaks in and he's actually driving him?
Well, that's part of it. I'm more thinking of when the stunt crew starts fighting the bad guys.
Oh, that was silly. That was all silly.
You know what I thought of when I saw that? Blazing Saddles.
I was going to say Ready Player One, but okay.
Blazing Saddles.
Ready Player One was gratuitous when it did that. Like,
Oh, and this was profound?
I'm not saying profound. No, is anybody saying that Blazing Saddles was a profound movie?
Fucking right it was.
I was like, in its own way it was.
It was groundbreaking on racial boundaries, for sure.
What movie did I see that in? Or it was like a Family Guy episode or something where they're like, we're now playing... Oh, no, it was a meme, I think. They're playing Blazing Saddles on TV, edited for television. It's 15 seconds long.
Yeah. See, back then, that was how you did satire and comedy.
Well,
and you could do it with purpose and value, laugh your ass off, and get the joke.
Even I, as a guy who makes the jokes I make, actually had a hard time sitting through Blazing Saddles.
There was stuff in Blazing Saddles that was drier than I thought it was going to be sitting watching through Blazing Saddles.
It wasn't dry for me. It was just that freaking uncomfortable.
I don't remember anything dry being in that.
Well, anything with an accent is dry.
Oh.
I love that you guys are just like, oh yeah, the movie's got a bean and fart jokes and it's a profound movie of its time. But
you didn't obviously you didn't understand it, so that's fine.
The fart scene?
No, I'm talking about Blazing Saddles. Nobody called it a perfect movie.
I'm sure Mel Brooks does.
Oh, and it's probably arguably as close to a perfect movie as one could get.
I actually, believe it or not, and I know my wife disagrees because she likes 90% of Mel Brooks movies.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Mel Brooks fan.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Like Dracula Dead and Loving It and Robin Hood Men in Tights, they were just too much. Like, not in terms of uncomfortable like Blazing Saddles, but just the humor was
I feel like he's lost his touch at that point.
Well, maybe, but it just got too dumb. Like,
Yeah.
I can only handle dumb for so long before I'm like, I can't watch this anymore.
Dracula Dead and Loving It was not a very good movie.
Which is too bad, because I love the subject matter and I love the actors, so...
Yeah.
Hey, Robin Hood Men in Tights. I give that one a try every now and again, and it still got some moments that make me laugh in that one.
Well, Lisa loves that movie, so we watch it more often than I'd like to, but...
Is Blazing Saddles his best movie? I haven't seen Young Frankenstein, so I
History
can't...
of the World is argued, but that's an anthology too, so...
History of the World? I always thought that... Oh, no, I'm thinking... that was Monty Python for some reason, but anyway.
Oh, History of the World's definitely
He's got part 2 out. You heard History of the World Part 2 came out.
Yeah, it looked terrible.
It wasn't terrible. It certainly wasn't that of the first, so...
Yeah, the first one was brilliant.
Actually, I felt like History of the World Part 2 fell to the actors. And again, this is one of those times I thought the actors were too known for what they did, and they did that. And so it kind of, I don't know, it fell short on me.
So we were talking about this at the beginning, and it was a throwaway line, but don't you agree that Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Ryan Gosling do look like each other on first glance?
It's the hair and the beard.
Maybe. But it's funny, because like, if you were to literally squint your eyes and turn your head fast, which I know that's a really... Yeah. Anyway, but you think they're almost the same person. So.
I think it's far more than just the hair and the beard. They both have a narrow face, a longer face. They both have tall, lean builds. They're one is 1.84 meters tall. The other one is 1.8 meters tall. There's a lot of similarities other than hair.
And goddamn those abs.
And both of them have a wicked rack on them.
That is my heterosexual comment.
You
See, I
seriously
feel like...
can't tell which one you're looking at when they've got the sunglasses on.
I know. I feel like this is the parody, is the movie they're making. Whatever this Armageddon thing is, whatever it is. That's
Metal Storm, man.
Metal Storm. That is what... There's the parody of it. I mean, which explains why
I still
they're
don't understand
in
why
Australia.
they're fighting aliens in Australia.
Oh, see, to me, I assume that they're making fun of the... being in Australia, being fun of this thing. It's the Road Warrior, bad science fiction type thing is what they're... Mad Max, you know?
They do really go full Road Warrior in some of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could tell that the movie they were making was supposed to be some Road Warrior-ish. Why wouldn't he stop the guy from putting the new steering wheel in?
Yeah!
Just like...
Duh!
Yeah, but I think they kind of established that... what's his name?
He's an idiot?
Yeah, Tom Ryder's an idiot. So...
And this is a whole setup by the whole crew.
Yeah.
Because once we knew that he had faked his death, which was about 10 minutes before he faked his death, we knew that was going to happen. Once we were at that point, when we knew he survived, and it was this big monster A-team setup, which I'm surprised we didn't get a montage for that, to set up and trick Aaron Taylor-Johnson.
But these are, like, expected movie tropes, right? To do stuff like this. Oh, he faked his death. Oh, it was this guy all along, like... who you obviously seen from a mile away. Those are all standard tropes, and that's the beauty to me about this movie. That they're just like, no, we're gonna give you the tropes because that's what you want.
I think that they were just doing the bottom of the barrel stuff. Again, I don't mind the idea of the tropes, but they have no anchor. There's no. If that's what it is, then they should have leaned more into it earlier or set us up, and they didn't. They want us to. I don't know. There had to be something. I don't know, better.
I think they were trying to walk the line before they became parody of it. And, like, that's a slim margin. Like, if you go any further, you're walking into parody region, right?
Well, that's what they should have done if that's what they wanted to do. Parody it. And they're not parodying it. They're that's what we were saying. They don't know whether they want to be a parody or they want to or do they want to mock it or do they want to have a whatever. Nothing felt.
That's the thing. They're trying not to mock it. They're trying to be like, yes, this is what happens, and this is to be expected, and but they're pointing that out, yet being like not disingenuous. You watch like scary movie or disaster movie, and they're disingenuous. They're mean to like those tropes and everything like that. They're making fun of. They're parroting, right? And this is trying to be more loving of the tropes, which is why I appreciate it.
I don't feel that at all.
You don't feel like it's trying to be loving to them?
It's like Jeff said earlier, or Corey said earlier. It's like they want to set up an homage to Stuntman, but then they undercut the Stuntman.
I wish they didn't undercut. I agree with you guys
there. That's a pretty
there was
major
some stuff.
Thing.
There was some stuff that was definitely the way they shot it did not look real, right? Like I wonder if what there is for CGI shots in here. I'm hoping none, but I'd imagine there is some.
Oh, I imagine there's some.
I think all the explosions are real.
Oh, probably.
And I think all the jumps are real.
They did that at the beginning as a pretty gratuitous thing.
This jump is totally real.
Yeah.
And this jump's pretty kick-ass.
Did you ever see Hooper?
No, Hooper is before my time.
Well, so is everything else that we've been talking about tonight. Hooper is it's around that time. Hooper was a stuntman movie with Burt Reynolds and Jan Michael Vincent.
Oh, I have seen Hooper. Yes, I haven't seen it in a long time.
For its time, that was a fantastic film. Again, it didn't try to be more than what it was. Burt Reynolds was being Burt Reynolds. That sort of thing.
That's all he needs to be.
Yeah, and and it was a buddy thing,
Hooper almost felt like another Smokey and the Bandit movie when it originally came out, which I kind of loved.
Yeah, I wonder whether it led into, or it might have been in between one of the Bandit movies. It might have been even before Smokey. I don't know.
Well, Smokey was 76.
I want to say 76, 77,
yeah.
But
who was the supporting actor in Hooper?
Jan Michael Vincent. Before Airwolf. That probably led him towards Airwolf.
Okay, this is the scene I'm talking about where the stunt team comes up and it's just ridiculous, and it reminds me of the stupid fight at the end of Blazing Saddles.
I think the whole thing.
Not this scene where she's taking the recording, because of course that needs to happen. There needs to be a recording. There needs to be a MacGuffin right at the very end. Everyone has to fight for. There has to be car chases and helicopters going on, right? Of course there has to be.
No, there doesn't have to be. I mean, these are all choices somebody made. And Hooper was 78. Smokey was 77. So
Hooper felt very much like an extension of his Bandit character.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah.
This part right here. Do you guys see what I'm talking about?
Well, how many bad guys were there ever in this movie? 3?
Not very many.
3? 2?
And most of them should be
and now we got 8.
unconscious.
We got what?
They're literally putting motorbikes in this scene to put motorbikes into this scene. I love it. Like there's zero reason for it. Zero reain. There's explosion going on. They're fighting like 3 guys. Why is there explosions going off? I don't know, because they want to.
It just all seems stupid. It's just dumb. It doesn't feel like an homage. Doesn't feel like a love letter to anything. It's just like we're trying to be funny, but we still want to have an endearing something. We want to do this and we want to do that. So
I don't think they're trying to be funny though. Well, there's
oh, good. You see my point then. It's a comedy that's not trying to be funny, and they're not funny. So
a guy just got pulled on a snowmobile with a rope to him in a sand dune.
I'm sorry.
Like it's a thing of beauty. It's a thing of beauty.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess my intellect is beyond this because I just.
Well, I would almost argue the opposite. I don't think you can grasp
my intellect
can
is
grasp what
beneath
this
this
movie's doing.
Oh, yeah. I don't think you have the level to comprehend movies. I could say the same thing. I think you get too stuck in your ways, and you think that you know these things, and you can't get out of it. Sometimes, I gave it a chance.
Okay.
I gave it big chance, and it didn't from the very get-go. It didn't hit anything that I felt was what it was trying to hit. So I gave it a fair chance.
This isn't a movie made for you either, though, Mike, right?
Am I the demographic?
I don't. Well, you did know the Fall Guy, I guess.
That's my point, and that is the biggest minus to it. They're hitting my demographic with that title, and then they're insulting that era. That is the biggest downfall to it. And if I accept that, if they would have called this a different name, would I have gotten a better value out of it? Possibly. Probably, I would even say. But that's like one bad element can ruin everything. Again, what did I say the other day? When you watch something can be just as important as what you watch. When you're 13 and you watch a movie and then you watch the same movie when you're 43, it doesn't always hit the same.
I think what's funny about that, and it's true, it's 100% true, but what's funny about that is we also carry, and you call it the nostalgia bait, you call it whatever you will, that, like, for example, I loved Masters of the Universe as a kid. Watch that movie now, it's a god-awful movie. But yet you watch it and you're like, oh, I love this movie. Why? But you remember it because you loved it as a kid, that you still have that soft spot for it.
I remember very much disliking Masters of the Universe.
I adored that movie. But again, I was pretty hardcore Dolph Lundgren back then. So.
See, and just part of the reasons why I didn't care for it, there's no weight behind these circumstances. There's no weight. So, you want to say they're attempting to parody, that's their idea. Well, there's no emotional value. Oh my God! Oh, this scene. Fuck me. Oh my God.
It's so ridiculous.
And
it's so ridiculous.
They did not set it up properly. I love the idea of what you're saying. I really do. I love the idea that they could really have fun parodying or mocking or having fun about stuntmen. But this does not do that. This is an insult. And it's just like, oh my God.
You don't think mocking is an insult?
Not necessarily. You can do it with an endearment. I mean, that's a definition of the words. That's a semantic discussion. How do you define mocking? So,
1313 Mockingbird Lane?
Yeah. I mean, we can argue about what the definition of mocking is, but I think there's...
By dictionary, making fun of someone in a cruel way.
That's fine.
That's the dictionary definition.
I think. Are you saying that comedians are not allowed to be cruel and funny?
This day and age, no.
That's my point. That's my
not
point.
Anymore.
Everybody can be made fun of in a mocking, cruel way through comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at it and you say, yeah, that's kind of how we are. There's nothing wrong with that if done well. I mean, this is all... Oh, and then they didn't even...
I forgot about that. They did like 3 different variations of this song in the movie, like different genres of this song.
Oh, I know, and I hated one of them.
I think it was the one Was it in the club? I think.
It might have been that one.
I can't. Yeah, it was awful. Like,
This
I mean,
is
this is
fucking
this is
Kiss,
the original.
man.
Yeah, this is the original. This is cool.
Yeah.
But
That
Yeah.
was a beautiful fall by a stunt guy, was that not?
Ring
I don't
Center-
know enough about stunts to say whether that was beautiful. It looked cool, but not being a stuntman, I could not actually define
It's
it.
got a like that kind of fall. Again, we were talking earlier, Jeff, about WWE because stunts, and it's the way you take a bump when you take a fall in wrestling and you land on those mats. They always do the thing where and I learned how to fall when I was in martial arts. You fall with your shoulders across
Yeah.
and your head
Tuck
tucked.
your chin.
So
Chin to chest.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's how
to
he
help
fell on.
prevent injury. Yeah.
Right, and that's how he fell on the
Yeah.
thingy here.
Oh, it looked like a fine fall. I mean, I wished it was a mockumentary or a real hardcore parody. I wish
Oh,
it
see,
would. And this
I
this
didn't
is
want
even
anything
insult to injury.
that ill-spirited, right? Like,
What's that?
said I was hoping it wasn't going to be something that ill-spirited. Like, but you know, I enjoyed it for what it was. There's definitely I can agree with a lot of your bad things you've got to say about it, Mike. Like, they're far from a perfect movie. There's definitely some tonal problems, right, guys? We can all agree on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's. Yeah, I don't know. I just. Oh man. I mean, I'm trying to find the. I mean, I don't mind ill-spirited humor or ill-spirited. I mean, again, it's like if you're gonna take movies as an emotional device to live your life, you're in trouble. So I mean, I think we can mock things and really, you know, have fun with it without it being, you know, take offense. That's what I mean.
Well, I guess some things do beg to be mocked, right? But
I mean, there's
I prefer it. I like that it was more love letter than mockery. That's all.
I didn't think it was a love letter. That's my problem. I wished it was. I wish they would have done that way too. If they would have chosen either to do a love letter or a mockumentary, either one would have been good. But they lived and danced between the two, and no one ever really freaking knew.
Well, where do you think it should have fell, Corey?
What do you mean?
Do you think it didn't lean hard enough into the mock side?
Oh, no, like I said, I felt it was an 80ism, and I felt, I don't know if I'd use love letter either, but I definitely wouldn't say parody. I would say it's just, do I want to use homage? I don't know what's the word I'm trying to think. But it's definitely, you know what, I almost hate to say it, but I might have to agree with love letter. Like, it, to the 80s. Again, not to Fall Guy, not to Stuntmen, but to the 80s.
It's the action movies, right? Not even just 80s action movies, but like action movies together, right? Like older style action movies.
See, again, if they would have called it something and led us down the path that it was to be, I think if they would have called it The Stuntman or something else that wouldn't have tied it to the 80s, I think this would have been a much better film. Now, it's still clunky, still has silly, ridiculous pacing and weird shit. But I mean,
So, having not seen it, what's your take on The Crow now? Because everyone's like, oh, they're remaking Brandon Lee's legacy and blah, blah. But they're not. They're remaking the story that had to do with a movie that Brandon Lee was in. So in this one, they're taking, very loosely, the story
They're
and...
taking concept. They're not taking story. They're taking concept.
and they're making a new thing of it.
see, I don't mind the idea if they want to reinvent it or whatever. I'm okay with that idea. But let's reinvent the idea of it, not the actual... Like, once you attach your name to it. Like, I didn't like the idea of them making The Crow. I seen the trailer, and okay. I think they're taking the idea of The Crow. They're not remaking the movie, but they're taking the concepts and the emotional value.
Well, it's based on a comic book. They're
Exactly.
remaking the comic book. They're not remaking the movie.
That's fine, but they're totally nailing a TV show for economic value, if anything, and then it just. What's the point? What's the point naming it Fall Guy?
I guess I wasn't. I was aware of the Fall Guy. I'd watched it a few times, but I couldn't put myself in the same shoes as you as a fan of it, Mike. And that's I get that. I've sat through and watched Michael Bay Ninja Turtles, so I get how when your name of a beloved property is attached to something and it's not what the original intention of it was, right?
You didn't like Michael Bay's Ninja Turtles?
Go figure, eh?
What's that?
Go figure, eh? So I can sympathize with a fan not liking, when something loses so much of what it originally was. And that's a fair and valid argument.
And that is only, but that's only one part of why I didn't like this movie.
So, should we start with our final thoughts, guys?
Yeah, probably should have a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, we could have. Yeah. Is there something you could have done to fix this? You've heard mine. You've heard mine. Rename it and choose. Whichever you choose, just choose one of your 14 genres or 14 freaking ideas you want to go with.
You see, and like I stated earlier, I think that was an intentional love letter / homage. Oh, I can't say words today. I thought that was a choice to pay homage to those different styles, right?
Of course it was a choice, but it was a poorly done. Like, I agree, I'm not arguing with you, but you make it sound like it was a... I don't know, I get it that you liked it, and I'm not disrespecting the fact that you liked it, but you make it sound like it's a quality piece of something. Corey, what are your final thoughts?
I think it's funny with this movie, I shouldn't say unlike most, but unlike a lot of the movies we do, I think we kind of made our thoughts known throughout the movie, that getting into final thoughts at the end just seems like you're repeating yourself. So I will just say flat out, it's 2.75 out of 5.
Really? That's an interesting rating. 2.75, eh?
It's better than 50. It's not a 60.
Mike, what about you? What are your final thoughts?
It was a ridiculous attempt to try and cash in on a John Wick style film, which they totally missed the mark on, which I've said before. It lacks any depth to what it intended to be, because it didn't know it wanted to have emotion, but they tried to put emotion in, and the substance had no weight, whether it was geared towards a parody or legitimacy. The consequences we never had, because clearly it's a comedy, and they weren't giving us. It lives solely on, for me, an attempt at nostalgia in hopes to garner the children of the OG fans and try and reinvigorate the idea that's been inspired through the John Wick people. And they went with a comedic nature with that, which I think, again, there was too many marks where it failed. Did it, if I were to say it gained a point because it actually had some cool stunts in it, but from a subjective perspective, I can't give it any more. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to give it a 2 out of 10. And I could say that, the camera guy was pretty steady. I think it was shot during the daylight, so that it was clear. There was no chemistry between the actors. Everything was flat. I mean, even the buddy stuntman, there was no chemistry. It's like, quick, make up a handshake. Let's do it. Quick, let's do something quick. There's no wait to really validate the humor that they wanted to go for. Like I said, there's a difference between comedy and humor, and they didn't know which was what. So there we go. Subjective, 2 out of 10. Objective, I'll give it a 3 out of 10.
So a 5 out of 20?
Something like that. That'd be fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know where to place this movie. Like, I totally see the flaws in the storytelling and everything like that. Which, yeah. But I also understand why those choices were made and everything like that. So I can appreciate for the reasons why they did the choices they made. I'm not going to give this a perfect movie rating by any stretch of the imaginations. But it was definitely a fun romp, right? There was some stuff that I really, really enjoyed in this. And when I first heard that they were making this, I thought it was going to be terrible. I was thinking like Starsky and Hutch, Mod Squad stuff, just awful. And I think it was a little better than I expected it to be. I don't want to quite give it a Raiders of the Lost Ark, but I think a Temple of Doom is not giving it enough credit as well. So I will give it 3/4 of a Raiders of a Lost Ark and a Temple of Doom if I had to give it a rating.
So 11 out of 16. Sounds good. You can't deny it.
11 out of 16, eh? 11 out of 16.
Yes,
that doesn't sound right at all.
Absolutely, I can. I'll get the voice bites and I'll prove it. Anyway.
No, it's definitely not an 11 out of 16.
Well, if you gave it a Temple of Doom a full Temple of Doom is 8 out of 16.
No, Temple of Doom's way better than an 8 out of 16. You're discrediting Temple of Doom.
Well,
Temple of Doom's a solid, fun movie with some very glaring flaws, right? To get some Raiders of the Lost Ark in there. You know what? I'm going to change my rating here. I'm going to give it a Temple of a Doom with half of a Last Crusade. Not a Raiders of the Lost Ark. Because it's too polished for a Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's a Temple of Doom with half of a Last Crusade.
Okay, so that actually bumps it up to, if a full Crusade is 16 out of 16, you go in half, so there's 2 there, plus a 3/4 there. We're still looking at basically a full Raiders. So, it's okay. I figured it out, and I'm sorry.
It's definitely not a Raiders.
Well, that's 12 out of 16.
Well, that's not 12 out of 16, though.
Well, it is by your, You just said 3/4.
That doesn't make any sense.
I figured it out, folks. You can. I'll translate it for you. That's all good. So.
The Last Crusade is the polish on it, right? But it's a dumb, fun movie.
The Last Crusade?
No. That's where it gets the Temple of Doom from.
Anyway, this was exactly where I figured it was going to end up being. It hit right with Starsky and Hutch and all that stuff for me. So anyway,
it's better than Starsky and Hutch.
Not even close. I'd watch Starsky and Hutch over this any day.
Like the Starsky and Hutch movie?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I hate Owen Wilson.
That movie is terrible. This has some redeeming qualities.
Not to me. No, there's nothing there for me. Anyway.
So you prefer it parody-ish, eh? I
would rather a committed tone. Mm-hmm. Commit to what you want rather than jumping around. It's just like having throwing in a Monty Python scene in the middle of Godfather. It's jarring, and now Now that would be like having a different director direct every other scene in The Godfather, and we got, Scorsese doing one scene, and then Tarantino doing another, Scorsese doing another, then, and that's what this one felt like. It was just so, the first guy thought, I'm going to make it a comedy, and then the next guy's going, I want some romance here with this, and then the next guy says, I want dramatic tension here, and then the next guy says, no, I want it to be a comedy again, and that's where I felt with it.
We haven't placed this in the video store yet, have we?
No. Which is actually
I think we
a
know where
valid
Mike's
question.
putting it, right?
What's that?
I think we all know where you're putting it, right, Mike?
In the garbage?
Totally the answer I thought he was going to give.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to, it's got to go. It's got to go into comedy. It has to. There's no other place. Yeah, I mean,
Corey, where would you put it?
I think because it's what it's trying to rely on, I'd put it in action. Because there's a lot of action that have comedy, and they still go in action.
See, I didn't see near the comedy you guys saw in this. There was a couple scenes where they were trying to ham it up, but it wasn't like... And it definitely wasn't dramatic, so, action is where I would put it clearly. So we're just going to end on an awkward silence now, eh?
Yeah, that's the
well,
way
yeah, you want me to argue with you? Or just let it go? I mean, I disagree.
Well, we're not allowed to disagree with each other's choices for the video store.
We're not allowed to.
No. That's just our final opinions.
Okay.
So
I'll put it in the first place, in the garbage.
I think we're allowed to
that
disagree.
is not
where we
economically
would put
viable.
it. Wasn't there a movie where we each put it in a different section of the movie store?
Well, that was what brought it up, and I think it was Lake Placid.
That's not what I meant by that. I meant that you can't call somebody out on their opinion of where it goes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can all have different opinions, absolutely. But you can't judge somebody on their opinion.
Mm-hmm.
In that particular one. The rest of the podcast, that's what the entire podcast is. But for
that's
the movie
what makes the podcast listenable, right?
For our, 3-4 people. But in terms of the final there, your star rating, your Indiana Jones rating, my out of 10, your out of 10, or my out of 5, your out of 10. Nobody can say, oh, that's not right, because that's what I feel, so fuck you. So
well, I feel Ash will take Jeff's side regardless anyway, so.
Probably.
She's the fan. I met one of our fans. She's a friend of mine. And she likes Marvel, so she'll take your side.
Oh, she's a smart lady. She's a smart lady.
That's asking me in front of that. I think everybody has deficiencies.
We want to keep this fan, so let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
Everybody has deficiencies. She knows where I stand. Deadpool is not part of the MCU. As much as they want it to be.
It is now.
Yeah. Okay. The movie's not out yet.
Yeah, fair.
So.
Okay, I have to ask you both. Are we excited about Deadpool and
No.
Wolverine?
I still haven't watched anything to do with it, so I'm excited based on nothing. So.
Oh, based on the mediocre limitations of what I've seen and whatever, I'm not interested at all. Disney got a hold of it.
I do enjoy that they've got a turn your cell phone off PSA now with Hugh Jackman telling people to shut your fucking phones off. I do love that this movie got that PSA.
Why?
Because that's
what
brilliant.
value? See, I don't get it. I don't get why. We're living off of celebrity statuses now, and it's just like I guess it's.
We've always
well, I was gonna say
status.
it's the same as the '80s. It's like nobody gives a shit about what he does as long as we get another Ryan Reynolds or Hugh Jackman. Nobody gives a shit about who the new Wolverine is as long as it's just like Hugh Jackman. And that is the disappointment of modern cinema to me. And then the problem is like the bottom line is it didn't evolve. It didn't evolve with the human race. I mean, kids, a 10-year-old kid is smarter now than a 10-year-old kid was 50 years ago.
But
And
using that argument, if you're saying it didn't evolve, then how is it that the comic book industry is still making billion-dollar movies?
The comic book industry isn't making billion-dollar
You know what I mean?
movies.
The comic book movie industry.
Because they're not allowing the audience to evolve.
The audience is content in not evolving, though.
No, we have the capacity. The audience will not evolve if you don't let them or give them stuff to evolve with. And that's what I think. The movies, the Disney stuff, is keeping the audience at the lowest possible level they can so they can make the most amount of money they can. And whenever somebody wants to be creative and nuanced and bigger, then these people shit on it now because it's not what they're used to. It's not what they want.
I think it goes back to the old adage, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Then we'd still be riding horse and cart. Because that wasn't broken, that worked fine.
I actually think after 2023, the audience has informed the film industries that they need to involve. That was a disastrous year for superhero movies and like big budget movies all in general. Like Barbie and Oppenheimer were the two biggest movies of the year.
Yeah.
I think the three biggest was Mario, Barbie, and Oppenheimer, which, really signals that the movie-going audience is kind of done with these big, huge blockbuster movies, or like superhero movies, specifically, because they've oversaturated now, and they've desensitized the audience, and they keep giving them what they want. And I think the studios are the ones that are being told it's time to evolve now by the audience, because that's not what the consumer wants anymore.
I think it's Marvel's oversaturation, and I think James Gunn is going to hit that same style, and it's not going to be beneficial.
The DC movies didn't fare any better than the Marvel movies, though, right? Like,
well, they weren't given the opportunity. That's the problem.
They what?
They weren't given the opportunity. They shit on them too early. The money people wanted more money. Rather than take the slow burn, they wanted Marvel. They wanted what Marvel. They were a different product and had a massive opportunity to give something unique and different from what was already out there. And the WB money people didn't want that. They wanted the same shit. And then it got kiboshed because of that.
I don't feel like Blue Beetle was very Marvel-ish in that sense. Like a little bit in its comedy and presentation, but it didn't feel like a Marvel movie per se. And I haven't seen Black Adam yet, but from what I can tell, it doesn't follow the Marvel formula very well either.
You can't judge those ones because that's after the implosion.
But I'm talking specifically of 2023.
I'm talking about just the idea of superhero movies. They because of what you mentioned that you thought that DC was no different, and I think it was completely different, and they suffered corporate issues, not cinema issues. And then by the time the whole implosion, Black Adam, Blue Beetle were already dying, Flash. There was elements in all three of these movies that had real good, strong validity to them, but they failed through incohesive management.
It's a shame about the Flashpoint movie, because that was arguably like the DCEU's stronger movies.
Outside of the cameo fest, the core story of that was by far one of the most beautiful and profound stories I've heard from a comic book cinema.
Oh yeah, it's very it's a story about him trying to save his parents, right?
Yeah.
Like it's and what the lengths you go to. It's a very good movie.
Sorry, sacrifice.
And I don't mind the cameos and find them near as gratuitous as you do and everything like that. But it was, it's probably my favorite DCU movie that they made.
Yeah.
I don't understand the love for some of the other movies, like Wonder Woman was very middle of the road for me, and you all know my opinion on Justice League, so.
Yeah.
Which is a shame it died with the Flash, right?
See, yeah, and again, it has nothing to do with whether we like it or not, but the fact that it was different and there was an audience out there was the problem. It might not have been the same Marvel audience, but they had, like I said,
but they were pumping in Marvel money, and that's the problem.
What's that?
They were putting in Marvel money to make these movies, and so they needed to make Marvel money to get their money back.
But the first 5 movies made more money than the first 5 Marvel movies, and they were stuck not playing the long game. They wanted to play the quick game. That was their problem. Yeah, they're big budget movies. They were making their money back roughly and making some profit here and there, but they wouldn't commit to the long game. They just wanted to switch and do that, and that's when Justice League came out. That was the end of it.
I still rest my guns in the fact that what Snyder wanted to do with the universe would have destroyed the world.
And it would have been a different take, just like you pick up a comic by a new writer and you don't like the New 52, but you like the Rebirth, and you didn't like Adams, but you did like and it's the same thing, everything else, and it's like trying to judge a movie from a movie, not from what you think it should be.
Well, not even that though. I just think in general that story they wanted to tell was a terrible story. So
and I
don't
get
know
that.
if
It's
it would have
not
been
your
a terrible story, but
What's that?
I don't know if it would have been a terrible story, but I was interested to see where it was going with the Justice League stuff and the whole, the Zack Snyder or Josh Whedon. Neither one of those movies are particularly great. Like the Zack Snyder is better, but
well, you'd have
neither
to
one of them
define
are
great.
particularly great movies.
You have to define great before you can continue on that.
Yeah.
Because I believe they're objectively.
You Googled which?
No, what were you blowing into your phone or something? No, I believe objectively Zack Snyder's Justice League was a very well done movie, whether you liked it or not. And that's what I mean. I need your definition of great.
Do we really have this much time?
No, we got.
And we're out of time, guys. Okay, good night.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Is that it?